starting this episode with a quote from Wayne Henley. Mama, I'm just kidding. That's not a quote.
Like, how many times have you said that quote?
It's been in my head.
In the 4 parts. 5 parts that we have now done this.
I was in the shower today. I was like, Mama.
Yeah, we saw your thirst edit video of it.
I killed Dean.
Okay.
Oh, Wayne.
Oh, God. Okay.
Oh, Wayne.
Okay, let's pick another quote from this story.
Such a fucking mess. All right, Wayne Henley says, quote, Dean was he was reserved, quiet, enjoyed himself. The man that did these killings was something else. Wayne Henley. All right, let's talk about a victim here, getting straight on it if you guys want. We're going to talk about a guy named Johnny Malone. This is one of the 29 victims. As you're going to see, Wayne Henley was not only involved in the murders, but he was just as sadistic as Dean. Now, if we take David's word for it, David Brooks, who says he hasn't killed anyone and then blamed most of the killings, all the killings, on Wayne and Dean, Wayne never defended that. Wayne admitted to killing, being forced or not. We can see that David's account is probably pretty accurate. Plus, Wayne's account is also accurate because he wanted to tell the truth for Mama, so I can live. So we can see that Wayne is actually pretty sadistic.
Okay.
This is the guy that's trying to get out of prison right now.
Okay.
This boy, Johnny Malone, was one of the many victims. Just like most of the boys who would always come over. Most of the time, it would be fine. They would just come over, sniff some paint, drink, whiskey, whatever. Wayne would actually finance most of the parties because Wayne actually worked as a handyman. So he financed a lot of the parties and they would just get fucked up. That's what they did.
Okay.
So the kids would come over and then if something happened, it was like a gamble almost. Now they didn't know that they could die.
Right.
But a lot of them did, because things got out of control like we talked about. So Johnny Malone is one of those kids. However, he tried to escape and Wayne is the one that killed him. Okay, so this is the first one that we know that Wayne is killed according to David.
First one.
David saw it.
Okay.
He saw this kid trying to escape once things are getting too far, and now he could potentially run out of the house. Now this is at 2020 Lamar. So this kid, Johnny Malone, this is what happens according to David. All right, I don't know if I want to tell you what happens or let you read the exact quote, but let me just try to describe it because this is kind of intense.
Okay.
Johnny Malone is with another guy there named Billy Baulch, Baulch, and both of them are going to be killed this night.
Okay.
Johnny Malone tries to make an escape for it, and Wayne sees it, and he shoots him right in the signature spot that Wayne shoots everyone, even Dean, right in the forehead.
Okay.
Now, we talked about a .22 caliber. It's not really big. It's not a big bullet. You can get shot with a .22 caliber all.
Yeah, but maybe not in the middle of your forehead.
I know.
Right.
This is what makes this murder so intense. Okay. .22 caliber bullet straight in the forehead, like right between the eyes. Boom. Pineal gland blown up. He falls to the ground. And this was Wayne that shot him right in the forehead, close range. He falls to the ground and that's the end of it, right? That's the end of it. However, a full minute goes by. A full minute, 60 seconds goes by. And little Johnny Malone gets up with his bullet in his head like nothing happened. And he said, please, Wayne, please don't kill me. This is from David.
Jeez. Johnny Malone, Johnny DeLone, something like that. Yeah, it's true. Billy Baulch was already laying dead in the bed, and I was sitting talking to Johnny, trying to keep him calm because he went wild when he's seen the strangling. He knew he was fixing to go himself. Wayne snuck back and hollered, "Hey, Johnny!" And when he turned around, Wayne shot him in the face and he fell over. About a minute later, he raised up and he says, "Please, Wayne, don't." Wayne had to choke him. Jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
Wolfie says size matters twice in this case.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wonder if he even knew, like at that point, he was shot.
That's crazy.
Because, that probably disrupted his brain, I guess.
That's wild. Yeah.
We know Wayne, as you're about to see, is completely okay with killing. Mm-hmm. And David is not okay, but he doesn't, he's still there. He's helping bury the bodies, yada, yada, yada. But Wayne specifically is taking part in these killings, a lot of the chokings and stuff like that. David claimed that he actually didn't kill anyone. He just helped dispose of the bodies. He also said that Wayne is more sadistic than Dean was. And the reason I'm harping on this Wayne guy is because right here, and I showed you last time, but he's trying to get out of prison. Now, this is recent. This is from 6 months ago. He's trying to get a compassionate release. And as you're going to see,
we should probably not be so compassionate.
Exactly. And Wayne says about his childhood, well, if you had a daddy that shot at you, you might could do some things too. He also says this, quote, I know I'm going to be sent away and I'll be about 40 when I get out.
That's optimistic.
Maybe they'll take me in the army. He's 66 now. So luckily, I mean, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. He's going to get out at 40. There's 29 dead boys and you're going to get out at 40. I mean, what are you what it what
I don't know. Maybe he thought that because he wasn't the killer of most of them.
But I will say, if it wasn't for Wayne, because David was smarter, David wasn't going to admit to anything until his hand was sort of forced, right? But if the boys would have said, hey, let's just blame all this on Dean, and we were just forced to help, they could have possibly gotten away. I can guarantee you they would have gotten away, because no one could prove otherwise. If they knew the lawyer thing, and Wayne went in there, and he had a lawyer at first, and he didn't just chirp like a little bird, you know?
Interesting.
They would have definitely got away. Well,
because they were both not silent, right?
So Wayne was arrested first, and he wants to clear his conscience, and also he doesn't think he's going to get in prison that long. But so he does it, and then he actually is in the police station, and he looks at David and is like, "I done told him everything, David. You might want to do that too." And David's like, "What the fuck? You know, shut the fuck up." You know?
Yeah.
And so eventually David did confess, but he actually has two confessions. One was kind of redacted and reworded, if you will. But
it's almost like it was the great prisoners, the prisoner's dilemma, but except doesn't sound like they were really forcing.
Well, it was interesting because David didn't want to say anything, and Wayne was an open book.
But now that he was, I mean, he knew that he chirped, so he needed to.
Yeah.
Tweet.
David Brooks had known Dean Corll for 4 years by the time Wayne Henley came into the picture. Wayne Henley was the new boy, and right away he became almost like a tyrant to not only all these kids but also David Brooks. David Brooks remembers one time when he went into the house and immediately he was slugged by Wayne, fist in the face. Wayne was hiding behind the door. Boom, right in the face, knocks him out. David Brooks wakes up on the torture board and he's getting raped. I don't know if that tells you the dynamic of the three.
Yeah.
Not that David Brooks was innocent, because he surely wasn't. So he got life in prison, 1 life in prison.
Okay.
So they did put him in there for life in prison. However, he just died not too long ago. This is what Wayne said about choking someone.
Man, it's horrid, he said. It ain't like on TV. Man, I choked one of them boys and he turned blue and gurgled and I just couldn't kill him. He just wouldn't die. I went in and got Dean and I saw he came out and helped. Had to do 2, 3 like that.
So that's Wayne Henley. All right, at this time, the Corll Candy Company goes out of business. That's 1968. And during that time, Ruby, remember I told you about the candy apple lady?
Yep.
She notices that there's a lot of stress going on. The company's closing. Dean is having to get a part-time job. And not only that, she also sees Dean on several occasions, especially in the late evening, nighttime, carrying a shovel with him. Okay, now this is 1968. And what he would do is he would go into the factory, into some of the back rooms. This is before he was dealing with Wayne Henley and even David Brooks, a little bit of David Brooks, I guess they had just met. But in 1968, Ruby kept seeing him, and other employees kept seeing him carrying a shovel with him, going into the back rooms and digging in the factory. When asked about it, because several employees are like, what are you doing? He would say that he was, quote, dumping discarded candy apples, which that they've never done that. Like, you throw them in a dumpster. You don't bury them and then pour cement. You don't bury them and pour concrete over it.
It's okay. You can say cement.
You don't bury them and then shoot semen all over it.
Ew.
So, this is before. All right, so you're asking, all right, well, they didn't even dig. Even today, they haven't even started digging or even cared to freaking dig in the factory. What the fuck? You really think he's discarding candy apples, burying them in the factory, and then recovering it with fresh concrete? Who the fuck would do that? Dean was already killing people on his own. Like, why don't they go and fucking... No one's brought this up? Like, has no one brought this up?
Not that suspicious, apparently, to them.
She has seen him dig on multiple occasions. I mean, there are probably 10 or 20 bodies under there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot
and they haven't even
29.
dug it up.
Yeah. He did his burying without a word of complaint, the way he did everything else. He had this big roll of clear plastic, 4 or 5 foot wide. He had sacks and sacks of cement and other stuff back in his pouting room. We didn't ask what he used it for.
What?
They don't want to know. They don't want to know.
But it's been 30 years.
Denial.
40 years.
Denial.
Right? It's been over 40 years.
Hey, what's that river in Egypt called?
As a curiosity, just to be morbidly curious, let's go freaking dig it up. Like, what? What the fuck?
In their view, some things are better left buried and swept under the rug.
At least build a hotel or something over it, like some of the people do.
Yes. Wolfie, this is the second time we have both said like the exact same thing today.
Nice.
At the same time. Awesome.
So no one knows how many victims Dean has, but it's probably a far more amount than 29.
I think that's fair to say at this point.
And they're probably still buried both in the boat shed and in the factory.
Yeah.
The factory is like a place you could look now and find bones.
Probably.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah.
You literally could go dig right now and find bones.
Yep. And they haven't.
And they have not. They have not. 40 years later.
Still haven't. Seems like a lot of work.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I will say that because Ruby went up to the detective and said that, said, hey, Dean was digging here in the factory. And they had sent someone out, and I have a quote in there where she says, I have to find it, but it says something like they basically did 5 little shovel digs and then quit. But it's pathetic. It's pathetic. But I will say she was talking about the detective who was there in charge of it was more concerned about her husband, because her husband also worked with them. And he asked her, like it matters, if her husband, quote, was a queer.
That's what they care about.
And she is like, okay, what does it matter? What does that
have to do with anything? We're talking about murdered children, like dozens of murdered children, and that's what you care about right now.
That's all the detective asked is your husband a queer?
Dude,
I know, right? What the fuck?
That's crazy.
I mean, I know this is in the 70s, but goddamn, still.
I mean,
is your husband a queer? I mean, what the fuck?
I mean, that's crazy that it would be her response.
I know.
That's just crazy.
Put them shovels down, boys. Her husband
it
is
is
queer.
kind of crazy that like the parents of these missing, or they were missing kids, but of the kids, who were probably killed by Dean. I'm sure you could probably figure out the accurate number by how many missing children there were in the surrounding areas in that time frame. So you can get a more accurate count of how many kids were probably killed. But I am surprised that there was not maybe there was, and we just don't hear about it, but you would think the parents in this town would be fucking outraged.
So a lot of them were from broken homes, but the parents were calling on the police, and the police were doing literally nothing. And I get it. It's the runaway time. It's the 70s. Everyone's, running away, joining the circus or whatever. But I mean, everyone's only running away from the heights. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Exactly.
It doesn't really make any sense. I'm not talking bad about police in general. Just this one department did not care. Okay. And some of the police did care. Like that one quote you read, that detective was like, it's a shame that this happened. Like,
yeah.
We should have kept digging. He didn't have any control over it.
Right.
So they're not all like this. But one detective said about the missing kids, quote, These kids, most of them, knew what they were getting into. They were male whores out for some quick money. Another detective said, those kids were what you call little turds. Most of them. Several had police records. Several had nutty parents. That is so fucked up. Okay, most of them did not have police records. Most of them were just kids that,
Yeah,
I
they were
mean,
just kids.
I mean, how many 11-year-olds?
11-year-olds, yeah.
11-year-olds have freaking police records.
Yeah.
So this is Ruby Jenkins, the candy apple lady, about the police not digging up the bodies in the factory. Quote, they couldn't have been more bored. They sent a couple of detectives and a digging machine out to the shed on 22nd to meet me, and they found about 40 reasons to tear up a few feet of dirt and then quit. There was concrete in most of the places where Dean used to dig, and a detective kept saying, lady, this is old cement. There couldn't be any bodies under here. Lady, you're just plain wrong. So I walked away.
Well, who put the cement there?
And then that same detective says, tell me about your husband. Is he a queer? Oh my God. Nuts, man. Just completely fucking nuts.
Wow.
At this time, the candy business started to turn sour. Dean picked up another shift at the Houston Lighting and Power Company, and by this time the mom had already remarried twice more, now to a man who was a paranoid schizophrenic and extremely jealous and violent. So she couldn't even stay at her own house anymore. She had to live in the candy factory, and Dean Corll basically fortified it. Security cameras, big locks, everything, because this guy was extremely unstable. He would ride around the factory at night blaring the horn. He would come up there, pound on the door, demanding to see Mary West, all of this stuff. And the police, were called, but they never even came out. So they had they fortified Mary West, the mother, in the candy factory. Now, this is during the time where it's closing down. So, and this is bad news for Dean, because at this point, she contacts another psychic, and this psychic tells her that she needs to move out of there to somewhere else. She moves to Dallas. Now, Dean's only lifeline, which is in a lot of cases we do when the parents leave or parents die, they have that one little lifeline, which it was to her mom, that separates them from normal, although kind of effed up, to complete homicidal maniac, has now been severed. So this is when all the killings started happening at once. The number is 70 to 73, but we know that he was digging in the factory. So if we take that into consideration, it would be 68 to 73.
Yeah.
So once mom moves to Dallas, then, he's all alone. He doesn't have any friends. Remember, this is all he does. His two friends are teenagers who just come over and get high and stuff like that, and then eventually help him torture people. Like, those aren't good role models,
No.
So he started moving. Now, this is crazy. The first place he moved, now this is before 2020 Lamar, where he was shot and killed, his father's place. He started moving, once the factory shut down, to different locations, different apartments. In fact, over 5 years, 25 different addresses in 5 years. That's a lot.
That's
lot. 5 a year.
Yeah.
Why do you think he wants to move that much?
Well, something be stanky in his boat shed.
You think they should be, looking at those places?
Yep. Sure do.
You think they are?
Nope. Doesn't sound like.
The thinking is that the reason he moved every, 2.5 months to a different apartment is because he was burying bodies there.
Right. Hey, he's running out of square footage in the apartment backyard,
I mean, how many is this guy killed?
It's just, that's where
this guy probably killed over 100 kids.
Yeah, it's probably way, 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 way more than the numbers that we were talking about.
No one's even been back and looked anywhere where he lived.
I hope that somebody does. I hope that maybe,
now it's 40-something years later.
Doesn't mean it's too late to do some excavating if they have information about where, kids may be buried.
But the only person that can provide them information now is Wayne. Wayne Henley, who may say, hey, I know where some more bodies are.
Some more bodies are.
If you let me out of prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he may.
I mean, shit, maybe. So now Dean is all alone. His mother has left, and the candy factory, the thing that he grew up in, and the only thing he really knew, because let's be honest, he's a relay tester at Houston Power and Lighting. You think he gives a shit about that? There's no passion in that. I mean, he goes
Where's
to
the candy at?
he goes to work and he does his job and that's it.
Right.
He ain't got nothing to live for at this point, honestly. He's starting to drink more. I mean, where his, I told you about Betty Hawkins, the girl that he was kind of going to marry, but just to appease his mom.
Yep.
So they're in communication all these years, and she notices he's changing. He's more down. He's more depressed. He's more nihilistic. He's more drunk, He's just not that old sweet Dean. So he picks up his life first by moving across the street from the Cooley Elementary School. That's his first location. He actually rents a storage shed.
Does anyone check the storage shed? Oh my gosh. This is crazy.
Holy shit.
I mean, like, in a normal case, I feel like the answer would be like, of course it was thoroughly searched and they found 4 bodies here and blah, blah, blah. In this case, you're like, they didn't even fucking open the thing, did they?
I mean, well, here's the thing. All right, let me go back to what the detective said.
Seems like a lot of work, man.
All right, here's what the detective says. These kids knew what they were getting into. These kids are what you call little turds.
I mean, they're literally blaming the victims.
I know.
For being murdered.
When I wrote this story, when I was doing my research, I started writing, these kids are all delinquents and stuff like that. And then I realized, no, this is just what the police were saying. This isn't actually the kids.
To make themselves feel better about not doing shit about it.
Why did we show you David Hillegeist? Why do you think I did his case?
He was a good kid.
And the other kid he was with, Mally,
good kid.
He stole a bike. And the police left him in prison for a month because not because of stealing the bike, but because
he was teach him a lesson.
He was such a good kid that they could see him being president one day.
They kept him in for a month?
Yeah, you read that. It was a month.
I didn't realize it was, I thought it was like a day.
No, he was a good kid, and they wanted to show him to get back on the right track. Like, he is no delinquent. He's not huffing paint, But if you research his story and you read the police reports, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see, this male whore wanted to get, his dick sucked for $20. So he went over to Dean's. Now he ended up dead. Who cares? I mean, it's just fucking crazy, right? I mean, these kids were just literally
kids
coaxed with candy, and to the detectives, they're all male whores and little turds. What the fuck?
Wow.
One detective says, quote, I got live cases to work on where the murderer's at large right now and Mike could kill again. Why should I fuck with this Corll thing?
Wow. Well, you should have fucked with it before he was murdered or he was done killed. But they didn't. Like, they did have a murderer at large and they didn't do anything about it.
He moved to a storage shed. That was the first place he moved out of the 25 different addresses. He was still the candy man, even though the shop was out. But those kids a few years earlier who would come, like David Brooks, and get their pockets filled, and even like the 9-year-olds and stuff like that, were now, 13, 14, 15, and they just came to him now, not for candy, but for whatever. Now, we're talking about most of the kids were picked up, kind of brought there or whatever. But a lot of the kids did actually go to the house. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. At this point, it's surmised that Dean either found a pair of handcuffs or bought them, who knows. And that's when he started messing with the handcuff trick, where, let's see if you can get out of these. They're not real handcuffs. They're Houdini cuffs, right?
And they were real handcuffs.
Yeah. He developed a Manson-like following, too, with some of these kids. Now most of the kids that knew Dean, like, they survived, right? Also, at this time, when he met Wayne brought a lot of kids Wayne was enrolled in a driving school, and he went up there and enrolled a lot of the kids to come to the parties, if you will. Mm-hmm. One guy on Facebook, I think recently, said something to the effect of, I was in said driving school.
Oh, wow.
And I was invited to said party, and something happened where, my car broke down or whatever. I couldn't get a ride, or I missed their van or whatever. So
lucky kid.
Yeah, no shit.
I guess guy now.
When Dean Corll turned 30, he got real conscious about his age because, he's 30 now. He's hanging out with teenagers. He's doing everything he can to look younger. While everyone else is growing their hair out and stuff like that, he's keeping kind of clean shaven, trying to look kiddish. He also had a sharp personality change. This came about with an illness he had. I never heard of it. Hydrocele. It's a water pocket that develops in your testicles. testicle, and it's supposed to be extremely painful.
Ouch.
So he's going through this too at the same time. Everything's just falling down on this guy. He loses the candy shop. His mama leaves,
He turns 30.
He turns 30. He has to work at this job he doesn't like. He's a failure type of thing,
Murderer,
So everything just
Pedophile.
piles up. And lately, his sadistic appetite has been increasing, from what Wayne Henley would say.
Okay.
Dean Corll didn't make a lot of money. I told you Wayne financed a lot of the parties. Dean didn't make a lot of money. So the $200 per kid, that's the verbal contract he had between David Brooks and Wayne Henley. However, there was only one payment of that.
Oh,
Yeah. Dean didn't pay besides that one time.
interesting.
Yeah. Dean became kind of a shitty friend. Not only would he not
I mean, just think about that statement. Like, he's a shitty friend. He didn't pay his trafficker for, he only paid him one time. He just got the kids for free.
What I meant by Dean's a shitty friend is he wouldn't pay, okay? And things like digging graves. He would go, come on, let's go dig these graves. And he would go out there first. All right, I got most of it done. You boys finish it up. They would get out there to the grave, and it would be like he did nothing. He's kind of just a shitty friend even to them.
Yeah, he's like not a good human being at all.
No, he's terrible. All right, let's go to the Texas Farm Road. This is another place they found bodies. So we went to the boat shed, all of his addresses.
Went to another place, at least.
Now we're actually going to another place to pull out bodies. All right, Texas Farm Road. This is where they pulled up the boy Billy Lawrence. It was a summer community called Hickory Hollow. Elmer Wayne Henley in an interview said, quote, there was just some boys that got Dean. Damn, I can't even read his These was just some boys that Dean picked up that I helped him get. Brother, and he raped them. Ended up killing them. Brought them down here and buried them. This is interesting. I never heard this before, but they brought a rolled up carpet out. Now, this is in the forest, okay? They bring a rolled up carpet out with them, with the bodies. But
with the body in it?
No, the body's not in it. In fact, you'll see Dean is so strong that he would literally put one boy under each arm and kind of barrel them, walk over to the grave. There's another reason they brought the carpet with them. It's kind of interesting. I never heard of anyone doing this. They bring the carpet with them because when they start digging, they don't want to make a mound somewhere. So they just dig out the excess dirt, put it on the carpet, roll the carpet up, and then, move that dirt somewhere else. Because on like the side of the road, for example, if you dig a grave, you're going to have a mound with that dirt,
Yeah.
So that's why they did that. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Tidbit for all you body burying people out there.
All right, so they found 2 bodies out there. They also found one on Mile High Beach. The detectives did go out there. It was on Highway 87, turned east along the Gulf, and this from David Brooks. Drove parallel to the beach and parked on the shoulder at Mile High Beach, where the highway changes color just beyond, and then down along the grass line. Now, they brought this bad boy with them. It's called a Galleon 118 Road Grader. This is the exact model from that time. Pretty sick, eh? It's a big old machine. It's for men, so I know all you guys are females on here. So
I wouldn't generalize.
I'm just kidding. They were going to get serious about digging up these bodies finally, which is good.
Oh, were they?
No, they were not. The beach was easy, right? It's sand. They don't have to dig up concrete, It's effing sand, literally. You could dig it up with your hands.
Yeah.
Plus, David Brooks and Wayne Henley both showed them exactly where the bodies were. Most of them. A couple of them they tried to show, yet they forgot the exact location on the beach. So they just never went back and even asked about it. Like they know that there's some other ones there at the beach.
Still,
But the fact that David Brooks couldn't find it or remember where it was the reason they didn't dig those people. So funny.
I mean, they'll take any reason to not have to dig them up.
So they found 2 graves when they first went out there. This is because they were shown by David Brooks. About 30 yards east of the 2 Friday graves, the blade ripped out a hank of black hair.
Oof.
And a leg bone.
Yikes.
And a digging party exhumed the jumbled remains of a boy. That fucking machine just tore that body all up. Jesus Christ. I mean, you saw the machine.
Yeah.
This is about Dean carrying the bodies to the beach. I kind of mentioned this, but go ahead and read it.
Oh, Wayne's strong, all right, Brooke said. So was Dean. That Dean, he was powerful strong. When we'd come down here to bury a body, I'd stay in the car, and old Dean, he'd put 2 shovels under one arm and a body under the other and just walk right on down to the beach like he was carrying a fishing rod or something.
Fucking nuts. So they found more bodies going further down the beach.
In a few dips of the shovel, he brought a patch of plastic into view. In a grave about 2 feet deep and 3 or 4 feet wide, the party found a skeleton the size of a teenage boy's, with strands of dark wet hair adhering to the skull. The body was entirely wrapped in plastic and tied like a package. Most of the skeleton fell apart when the outside cords were cut, but the feet were almost intact, as though a sculptor had roughed them out in clay.
Isn't that crazy? Mm-hmm. Now, why do you think the feet were intact?
Were they in shoes?
Yep, there you go. Somebody's been listening to the one I did about that.
That was a good one.
Dude, I went way down that.
That was a great episode, actually.
Dude, I fucking explained that. If someone wants to know, it's no mystery anymore. I explained it.
Yeah.
I even explained why the feet, because the shoes. And I even went down the road of why, the Nike shoes, because they've been pumping more air in the Nikes over the years, why they're protecting the feet. Dude, I killed that episode.
You did. It was
that mystery is solved thanks to me, thanks to my research. Ain't no one else fucking done that, right?
Go me.
I know it's kind of a crazy dumb case, but
I know.
still.
I loved that case, actually.
All right, the feet were intact because which is crazy because the bodies were skeletonized, most of them.
Yeah.
And
well, that's where it's the same pattern, right? He wrapped them in plastic, put the line in there, tried to decompose it, but he didn't think about taking the shoes off, I guess.
I know, it's crazy. The next body was 200 feet at the beach, unwrapped, full set of teeth with a few gold fillings, black hair long that it almost looked like a female. However, the morgue assistant there said that no, this is a male. That's what he's there for. But crazy, right? 2 boys who were there. These are observers, beach-going boys. One was 12, the other was 13. Maybe they're brothers. Anyway, they told the media, quote, "It stunk like crazy," one of them said. "Just bones. And you could see his hair. His hair.
Har.
You could see his hair. Looked like a Mexican. Awful." The other boy said, "I seen it dug up. It had hair and a little bit of flesh on his arms. This was the first dead body I ever seen. I hope I don't see no more." I don't know. I thought that was cool to put in there. All right, another 2 miles at the beach, they found more bodies. What are we at, 8 now? Fuck.
No, we're at way more because we already found 17 in the boat shed.
Plus
lost count.
Plus 25 different addresses.
Yeah.
All right, so another 2 miles at the beach, they found more bodies. A long stick was inserted deep into the sand and a, quote, "unmistakable odor wafted into the breeze," end quote. And we're finishing this up. Pretty much done.
3 feet down at the edge of the salt grass, a work crew unearthed the body of another young man. Hands folded and tied across his stomach, ankles crossed and bound tightly. The boy wore blue jeans, and one pocket was crammed with hand-loaded rounds of 27 caliber ammunition. A pair of scissors hung from his belt. The cause of death was apparent. 4 or 5 heavy caliber slugs had torn the boy's rib cage apart.
Those slugs came from Henley. Henley was the one that was shooting. They would usually shoot when they couldn't strangle to death because apparently it takes a lot to strangle someone. Never done it. Anyway, later that day they found even more bodies. A, quote, "pair of bodies were lashed together with a cord on the top of each other wrapped in plastic and lime." And then they were going to find the other bodies, at least 2 more, but David Brooks could not successfully lead them to those locations. So they just said, fuck it, we're done. But it's not Dean's fault. If you want to read this is from his mom, even before she died. So she had a psychic problem. So she would always consult these psychics. And this is what the psychic told Dean's mom.
"I see Dean. He's completely clear. He's robed in white. He has an aura of white around him."
So what do you think about all this shit? Did I do the Dean Corll story justice?
Yeah, very, very thorough. That is a lot of content on Dean Corll.
I mean, I have a lot more notes, but I'm not going to do
I think we get the gist. They went to each location. They found a body. They gave up on finding more bodies. Like, you could probably do that for another 5 more hours, I think.
I could.
Yeah.
I really could.
Like, that's insane.
This one was kind of hard. I don't know why. No, you know what was really hard?
I done killed the man.
The really hard story I didn't even do all the way. The Leonard Lake and Charles Ng story. I don't even think I put any of the episodes out.
No, that episode.
I read a 400-page book for that. I still couldn't do it. It's just too complicated. There's too many moving parts.
Started it, got too drunk, ate a Benny's pizza.
Oh, yeah, I did get too drunk.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got, man. That is. I'm done.
All right. We did it.
So we will do the Belgium story, and I don't know who requested. I think Shram maybe, or
Was it Colleen? Because Colleen's in Holland.
I don't know, one of you guys, but it's a really interesting case. I think you'll like it, and mostly the reason I'm doing it is because you.
What day are we gonna do it? Monday?
Yeah, can we do it Monday? And that'll just be unlisted for Supremos.
Okay,
yeah.
because I want to go pick up my favorite beers.
Okay, cool.
I gotta go to Total Wine though, because it's special.
Okay, and no one's done this story, I can promise you. And it's got pretty recent news too.
Cool.
And if you guys look in the request, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's all, man. That's Dean Corll. So he's innocent, obviously, and his name has been dragged through the mud, you know. All right, well, we'll see you guys on Monday.
All right, sounds good.
All right,
thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys, and until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.